All right, so I'm going to do a little introduction to ADF&G advisory committee process and board process. I'm going to keep my portion pretty brief because it was really good. Art Nelson, the executive director of the Board of Fish, did a kind of in-depth intro to board process this spring. So this is probably, if I get too in-depth, it's just going to be pretty redundant. And we've got a lot of proposals that the filers are going to cover. So gonna keep it short and sweet over here. So the functions of the advisory committees are to give recommendations to the Board of Fish and Board of Game about the proposals. They develop regulatory proposals for the board. They evaluate the existing proposals, provide feedback for the fish and game use conservation. And they also are a really good way for the community to get involved with that. We'll have individuals and different subcommittees kind of come to the board with an idea or something like that and work with the board to develop proposals and kind of brainstorm ideas. And so even if you're not on an advisory committee, it is a really good platform to get involved with the board process. The Fish and Game Advisory Committees are authorized by the Joint Board of Fisheries and Game, the local forum to get ahead of myself. It's a local forum to talk about fish and game proposals and issues and concerns. There are 84 advisory committees throughout Alaska. The members of an advisory committee are elected by locals. You don't have to be a member of the AC to be a part of the elections. Everybody who is a citizen a resident of the area served by the AC is welcome to participate in that election. Members serve a 3-year term. Alternate members will serve a 1-year term. These meetings, like I said, they're welcome, open to the public. We love to have guests participate. ACs have a greater opportunity to provide input to the boards. They have during board meetings, they have a longer public testimony a lot of time, and oftentimes the boards will take a little more stock of what ACs have to say than the general public. There's 84 ACs throughout the state. There's 6 different regions: Southeast, South Central, Southwest, Western Arctic, and Interior. Over 1,000 seats in AC regulation, 170 communities represented, and 68 active ACs. So I'm not gonna go through all the different ACs because there's a million of them, but within each region, different of the Southwest, South Central, all those regions, those are kind of divvied up by communities based on population, not based on population, but just covering different areas and different interests. Within the Southwest region, we have Chignik, False Pass, King Cove, Kodiak, Dillingham, Bristol Bay, Naknek, Kodiak, Michigan, Sandpoint, Kodiak, and Alaska Dutch Harbor. 6 of these ACs are single community ACs, so we cover just that little community. Those ones are Naknek, Nelson Lagoon, Sandpoint, King Cove, False Pass, and Unalaska. And then you can see on the map up here that these larger circles, those cover bigger areas. There are 33 community designated seats. So within the Nishigac AC, we have designated seats to Ekwok, Polygonik, Kodiak, Sparks Point, Aletheia, Dillingham. So to hold those seats, you have to be a member of or a resident of that community. We have one inactive AC, which is the Lake Iliamna AC. We're working on getting that one back up and running, but we're not there yet. I'm Natalie, I'm the virtual coordinator. So if you have any questions about any of the other ACs in the region, any questions about China Federal, anything like that, I'm the person to come to. Just a quick Board of Fish regulatory process overview. Like I said, there was a really good lunch and learn this February, I think, by Art. So the call for proposals is generally issued middle of January. Sometimes it can go out as early as December, but it's usually in January.
Other than chat, they're having a hard time hearing you. It's coming across as
Check. Okay.
Okay. The call for proposals goes out January, occasionally late December, generally January though. The publication and distribution of proposals, they try to get it out in middle September. I think this year it didn't go out until the beginning of October. Just kind of depends on how many proposals there are, and it's a long process to get all that organized. So that they try to get those out in September, get them posted, print those proposal books and distribute them. Advisory committee meeting schedules it depends on the EC. So if you are interested in, getting involved with those meetings, definitely contact the regional coordinator of whatever region, Southwest, obviously it's me. The written public comment period for proposals for each meeting is 2 weeks prior to the meeting. For the upcoming Board of Fish Bristol Bay meeting, it's December 29th. The board meeting is on the 13th of January to the 18th. ADF&G, they review all the proposals, compile them into a book, and there's all the different area biologists have to review the proposals that are applicable to their areas, write comments. It's a process. So the regulatory board meetings are held not necessarily in January, March. Generally in January and March, but like this past Pacific Cod meeting was held in November, so it depends. Or October. The adopted proposals, they're turned into regulations. And all proposals that are heard at the Board of Fish meetings, some action is taken on them. If they're adopted, they are converted into regulations, and they're made official by the Lieutenant Governor effective July 1st, and they are enforced by Alaska Wildlife Troopers. All board meeting actions and summative actions that are recorded, it's all available online on the Board of Fish Department of Fish and Game, Board of Fish website. All meetings are in a 3-year cycle. Right now we're on the Bristol Bay Finfish cycle, so that's Alaska Peninsula, Aleutian Islands, Pacific Cod and Finfish meetings, Arctic Yukon, Finfish meeting, Bristol Bay, and statewide. So that's this year. The next cycle will be 28-29. Next cycle will be Cook Inlet, Kodiak, statewide, and so on. So if they take up proposals based on the cycle that it's in. If you have a proposal that you think is really important to be heard for Bristol Bay, say next winter, you can get that looked at by the Board of Fish through the agenda change request. This is taking up out of cycle proposals and letting them be heard at a Board of Fish meeting. Not every ACR that is submitted is accepted. These ACRs are reviewed by the Board of Fish at the work session before the whole meeting cycle starts, and they decide whether they're going to take that up or whether it can go ahead and wait until the next meeting cycle. Getting involved with the board, there's the boards and advisory committee distribution list if you want to receive emails with notice of meetings and anything like that. you can contact me or Art Nelson or Christy Dibble, who's the executive directors of Board of Fish and Board of Game, to get on any of those lists. You can, submit proposals. There's, you can talk to me about that. You can talk to the biologist who, if it's a fish proposal, talk to Tim or Lee. Game, you would talk to Evelyn at the moment. You can submit written comments on proposals. I wish I had put both. So there's just to write a comment on a proposal, that's called public comment. You can submit it on the Board of Fish website. There's a big blue button that says submit a comment. Just click that button. Attending boards, you can provide public testimony and then also participate in the committee of the whole. Board of Fish recently added a traditional knowledge section, so you would be contacting Art, and that it's kind of another way for Indigenous and traditional knowledge to be shared at board meetings. Skip before we.
No. Probably not a good sign. So I hit it.
Yeah. Always work. Nothing stop.
Try holding the button for a couple seconds. Red.
Yeah, it's just blinking red.
Okay. Well.
I'll just shout.
Okay. Yeah, that might be good.
So the traditional knowledge reports that's a new addition within the past. Oh, is it working now?
It seems so.
Okay. Traditional knowledge reports. That's a new addition to board meetings. You can contact Art Nelson and give an overview of who you are, what you're involved in, whether it be a tribal council or anything like that. Just a general overview of what you want to talk about in your traditional knowledge report. So that's a new form of giving testimony to the Board of Fish. So far it's only been Board of Fish, not Board of Game yet. I don't know if they're gonna add it, but it is kind of a cool
Yeah, you might be on its last leg.
Okay. Anyways, that's a new addition to the testimony allowed at board meetings, which is, I like it. I think it gives a new kind of unique look on different proposals and just another point of view. So you can also be involved by serving on or attending Fish and Game advisory committee meetings. The Nishigak AC is a pretty well attended and it has a lot of members, it's really great. But you can also, just because you live in Dillingham doesn't mean you can't be involved with any other AC. You can almost all of the Southwestern meetings are, they have Zoom links, so you can participate that way. So just if you don't have the time to be involved with an AC, totally understandable. You could come. We love to have guests. And yeah, if I have any other questions on that, again, contact Art or I for information. And that was that. So.
You have a couple questions, I think. Go for it.
Do advisory councils work on other species besides fish?
Yeah, there's, obviously this year
Can you re-say the question into the mic, please?
Oh.
I don't know if they could hear the question online.
Okay. So yeah, advisory committees absolutely cover topics other than fish. It just depends on the cycle that we're in. Last year we were in the Southwest region Board of Game cycle, so we were covering all Board of Game topics and proposals. So it just depends on the year, and I think this coming year we won't be in cycle for Board of Fish or Board of Game, but the Board of Game comment deadline will be coming, or proposal deadline will be coming up. So, and next season we'll probably be talking about putting proposals together for the Board of Game meeting.
And we will have a section at the end specifically devoted to questions that can be directed at the ACs, or it can be directed at anything. So if you want to hold off on questions till that portion, that's totally fine. All right, thank you very much.
No, then I'll send over here. I don't know where I'm on camera. I don't need to. Yeah. Good afternoon. My name's Tim Sands. I'm the area municipal biologist for Bristol Fisheries for the west side of Bristol Bay. And I'm going to go through the proposals of the commercial fisheries proposals for the Board of Fish. And I think the easiest thing to do is take questions as we go, because it'll be hard to remember from one proposal to the next what we're talking about. So, if you would. So, the first proposal is proposal 44 in the thing, and this proposal would limit the subsistence harvest and also the commercial retention of king salmon for personal use in Bristol Bay, and mandate additional reporting requirements. Basically, what this is saying is there would be some cap on subsistence harvest for kings. And if you're a commercial fisherman, right now you're allowed to take any kings you catch and rate them down the fish you get as personal use to keep them. And this would say that there was going to be a cap on the number of kings you could keep from your own commercial catch. So I'm going to just keep going. If you have a question, raise your hand. Rich, not a question. Okay.
Please, Tim. He's asking that subsistence in commercial fisheries be limited. That the proposal is from the board's camp. I assume in the news. Now, isn't subsistence sort of sacrosanct? Can't limit subsistence before you're limited other kinds of harvest.
All right, so the question is about limiting subsistence before you limit other kinds of harvest. Yeah, there are some rules about that, but it's not necessarily about, I think that's more related to opportunity than actually having a cap on the number of fish you catch. Okay, let's just get on. No more mic, so hopefully you can still hear me. Yeah, so if we were to restrict subsistence fishing opportunity, that would be one thing, but having the board come in and say, you're only allowed to catch X number of kings in your subsistence net, and then you have to stop fishing for kings, or I'm not sure how that would work, because any net can catch any species of fish. So would that mean you have to stop fishing entirely? It's all unclear. So that would have to be worked out at the Board of Fish meeting.
And I know we're not supposed to be debating the merits of the proposals here, but this one seems especially silly. Like if you're fishing and you catch, what do you say, 12 kings, and those kings are dead, and you catch number 13, you're supposed to throw it overboard. I mean, it's silly.
You have to sell it to the commercial market. You just wouldn't be able to keep it for yourself. It's still a dead fish. You just have to sell it and not keep it for yourself. I guess the take-home message here is, when you're trying to write a proposal, it doesn't hurt to call people like me or Lee or Natalie and say, hey, I'm working on this proposal. Can you help me craft it in a way that really gets my goal across? We're here for that and happy to help. So, the more specific you can be about what your goal is with your proposal and how it would be implemented, the more chance of your proposal getting traction is.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Next. Okay. Registration and re-registration. This would extend the district registration period in the Naknek-Quejack district to 9 a.m. July 22nd. Right now, if you want to fish in commercial fish as a drift fisherman in Bristol Bay, you have to register for a specific district before you can start fishing. And that registration period goes from June 1st to July 17th. This proposal wants to change that July 17th date to July 22nd, but only for the Naknek-Quejack district. Any questions?
Sounds nice, let's do it for the Michigan.
Well, okay. So these two proposals are very similar, so we grouped them together, and they would change the end date used for calculating allocation from July 17 to July 22 and extend the emergency order period in the Naknek-Quejack district from July 17 to July 22. Again, this is similar to the registration, re-registration. In Bristol Bay, we have allocation plans for the different districts, and the allocation period goes from June 1st to July 17th. After that, there's no longer allocation. So that means when there's no allocation, that means equal fishing time for both gear types, for example. This wants to change that allocation period, add another 5 days to it in the Naknek-Quejack district. And the emergency order period, they generally go to a weekly fishing schedule in the east side after July 17th. This would mean that all the openings had to be run on a emergency order basis. Questions? And any questions online?
Hard to have a question when you're not trying to debate.
So speaking of debate, and I don't know if Natalie said it, but if not, I'll say it as well. Saturday, the 6th, this Saturday. No. Oh, it's the 13th now?
Yeah, talk to Susie, and we're scheduling until 13th.
Okay, so it's being, so the new Shigak Advisory Committee meeting was going to be on the 6th of December. Now it's going to be on the 13th of December. Okay. And if you want to get more information on that, Natalie can help you out. But we'll be debating, the New Shigak AC will be debating and taking action on all these proposals on that day. All right, next, please. Okay, this proposal wants to change the seasonal ratio of fishing periods in the Quejack River Sockeye Salmon Special Harvest Area to 2 drift gillnet fishing periods to 1 set gillnet fishing period, and require all set gillnet gear beyond 30 feet from shore be removed when not fishing. So the Quejack River Special Harvest Area came into being last year through an ACR because they thought it was important enough to do that, and they haven't actually used it yet, but the regulations, I'm not sure what the seasonal ratio is right now of how many, if it's 3 drift to 1 set, like it is in the Naknek River, or what the deal is. But they're wanting to make some tweaks to the Quejack River Special Harvest Area fishing schedule, should it be used. Questions about Quejack? Next. All right. This is a similar proposal, apparently. Change the ratio of fishing periods in the Quejack River Special Harvest Area, depending on drift gillnet participation. So he wants to create a dynamic ratio system to alternate fishing periods between drift gillnet and set gillnet that changes based on gear type participation. So you can find these proposals, the whole proposal, online and delve more deeply into exactly what the logic is behind these proposals. I'm just trying to give a quick overview. But clearly he's talking about if no gillnetters, no drifters participate in the Quejack River Special Harvest Area, then maybe it should just be open to set netters all the time, or something like that. Any questions? Next. Am I going too fast?
You're doing great.
Okay, so we do have a bunch to get through. So, all right. Okay, so this one add a new section that would direct the department to manage the Bristol Bay commercial salmon fishery for the highest level of product value with minimum waste. So I wasn't sure about this proposal, And I went and I read it more thoroughly, and the example he gave of there being waste or fish not harvested in the most beneficial manner was the example he gave was the Naknek River Special Harvest Area, where fishermen you can put out 75 fathoms a year, pull it in, round haul it, have it in a pile, set out another 75 fathoms a year while you're picking the first 75. So the implication was that product quality would suffer, and that's not a great idea. So that's what I got out of reading the whole proposal. And that's what that's about. Yes.
I thought this is special harvest area, you said.
Well, he's talking about Bristol Bay wide. His example was just from special harvest area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed more than 75 fathoms in a special harvest area.
In Naknek you are, in Wood River you're not.
I think he just wants them to look at all the rules and ones that can create, when you're trying to catch more fish by, compromising quality.
Right, yeah, and because I couldn't think of an example until I read through it and got that example, because I was like, how do you, does that mean we have to require everybody to use a slide or refrigerate fish? That obviously is, I think, beyond the purview of the Board of Fish, but anyway, yeah, Brits.
There's precedent in there. You would in the old days make a determination as to when fish were right, and so before open with the help of the industry as well.
Right. So in the herring fishery, we would have to we would wait to have the openings to get to a certain mature roe percent before we would have the opening. I think that's a little different situation, because that is not about the method of harvest. It's more of the condition of the fish at harvest, and you're trying to optimize that for mature roe content. This is.
You can still make an argument that chilling's a good idea,
Well,
the Board of Fish,
I
don't know if they can mandate.
Right. I don't know if they can mandate that. The incentive obviously is the extra money you get paid for refrigerating your fish, chilling your fish. So next, please. Okay. Allow drift gillnet vessels to carry additional gear while fishing in the Kvichak River Sockeye Salmon Special Harvest Area if the gear is stored in a net bag or brailer. I'm not sure the specifics. Well, it says replace point F3, notwithstanding 5 AAC 39-240. A person operating a commercial salmon fishing vessel in the Kvichak River Sockeye Salmon Special Harvest Area may carry additional drift or set gillnet gear on board the fishing vessel if the additional gear is stored in a net bag or brailer. I don't know what the rules are. So that something in F3 doesn't say this, and he wants to replace F3 with this. I'm not sure what the rules are over there. I know in the Wood River Special Harvest Area, you can't have your extra gear on board as long as it's in a net bag. As we said before, in the Naknek River Special Harvest Area, you can have it on the reel and you can actually fish it after you pull in what's in the water. So you can be rotating shackles. And in Naknek River and Wood River, you have to have any extra gear in a brailer bag. And for a while it was, if you were a dual, you had to take off the extra 50. But now I think all the gear can be on board if it's in a bag. So all these regulations kind of evolve over time through the whole Board of Fish process. Any questions about this one? Obviously, the devil's in the details, and you have to read the whole proposal to see, and maybe the current regs to see what he's getting at. But okay, this one wants to create an upper Egegik River Sockeye Salmon Special Harvest Area, so above the current district, that would add about 4 miles of fishing area to the upriver portion of the district where the river narrows. It may be opened when sockeye salmon escapement is projected to meet the minimum escapement goal of 800,000 and would be required to be open once the department is projecting escapement above the midpoint of the escapement goal range which is 1.4 million fish. Drift, set, or both gear types may fish the area when it is in use, and openers in that area would be of equal or greater length than in the full district. I think the next slide is a map. So he's talking about upriver from the regular commercial district, just trying to provide additional opportunity to harvest fish to control escapement. Questions? Okay. This proposal would allow managers to close a portion of the Igigik district when illegal fishing may occur. The western boundary line of Igigik district would be moved into the Igigik special harvest area, the 110 line, effectively taking away much of the north line of the district where most illegal fishing in closed waters occurs. This could occur at any point in the season. Again, I think we have a map. So, right, I think they're saying move the outside line all the way into here because most of the fishing, illegal fishing is at the top part of the map. And there wouldn't be such a big line on the north end.
Is that the 110 line, the inside the shaded area?
Yes, I think this is the 110 line, yes. For those of you who were around when Lorianne was around. Okay. All right, so proposal 54 and 55 are very similar. The 54 was the department proposal. And basically right now in regulation, we have the Coho River, Nushagak River Coho Salmon Management Plan. And we're saying we want to take that out of regulation. We don't have the money to count coho salmon anymore. And to have it in regulation when we're not counting coho potentially presents the problem that we have an escapement goal in there and we're not meeting the escapement goal, not because the fish aren't there, but because we're not counting the fish. And then that makes it look like we're failing. So we submitted one, Robert submitted one. Roberts goes into the Wood River Special Harvest Area plan and takes out that little bit about coho salmon that's in the Wood River Special Harvest Area plan. But otherwise, they're both basically trying to get rid of the coho salmon plan from regulation. I see a question. Fritz.
Yeah, Tim, there's some confusion on this one from people I've talked to. Is this meaning that there would be no commercial coho fishing in the Nushagak?
No, the way the department's proposal was worded was a little confusing. I think I talked to my bosses about that, and the line I got was we reevaluated our position or something.
Can you just rephrase or say the question again a little bit louder?
So Fritz is asking if this getting rid of the coho plan would mean there'd be no more fishing in the Nushagak district after a certain date. Commercially, yeah. And the answer is no, that's not exactly what it's saying. That's not the intent.
So the department is not managing for cohos, not counting cohos. What would they?
So the way I look at it is, if there was a market for coho salmon, we could use other tools. For example, catch per unit effort. How much effort is there? We could potentially fly aerial surveys, and we could use that information to manage the fishery, just like we've managed other fisheries without counts before. It would be more conservative than if we had actual numbers that we can base decisions on, but it's not saying that there wouldn't be any fishing opportunity. We would still manage the fishery, but the issue has been there's no market. Nobody wants those fish. So there's very little effort. There's half a dozen people that fish late into the August or even September, maybe.
There would still be opportunity for somebody who wanted to direct market.
I mean, that's the idea. Obviously, it all depends on what the board says. But that's the intent, is that yes, there'd still be opportunity to some extent. Next. Okay, this proposal is specific to Ecock Beach. At the last board meeting, the folks along Ecock Beach all the way down to the dock at Clark's Point, there's a GPS coordinate line that kind of is the boundary now for the offshore distance that their set nets can go out to. Before it varied depending where you were on the beach from First Creek to Third Creek. And it was based on the mean high tide line, or I can't remember if it was mean high tide or 18-foot high tide, but anyway, it was a much more difficult kind of thing to figure out. And as the beach changes over time, things that were legal were becoming illegal. So they put in this line, and this was approved at the last Board of Fish meeting, but it was approved with a sunset clause, meaning it would go away after May 31st of 2026. So in order for it to not go away, they're asking for the board to make it permanent. So that's what this proposal is doing, asking for that change that happened at the last Board of Fish meeting to become a permanent change. And I think we have a map. Let's go to the map. So this is the line, and this is what's regulation now, and they just want this to be in regulation.
But it's not like a boundary line like that. We can't fish inside of their gear, just can't be outside of that, right?
Correct. That's what this is right now. Yes. Next. Now this proposal would make it a boundary line that you cannot go fish inside. So that's what this proposal does, would prohibit operation of drift gill net gear inside that same line we just talked about in that map. So that's what this proposal would do. Yeah. Questions on either of those? Okay, next. Okay, this proposal would increase the triggers that allows opening of the Wood River Special Harvest Area to harvest surplus Wood River sockeye salmon. Right now, once we hit 1.1 million escapement in the Wood River and project hitting 1.4 million escapement, this is for sockeye salmon escapement in the Wood River, we can open the Wood River Special Harvest Area and start fishing. This proposal wants to change that as long as we're under an OEG, the optimum escapement gill, which we have now for king salmon conservation. This proposal would make it, we couldn't open the Wood River until we hit 1.6 million escapement in the wood and project 2 million escapement in the wood. So just making it a much higher bar to fish in the Wood River.
What's the benefit of that? Haven't we been over escaping it at the OEMs already?
Right. So the benefit of that is I'm not quite sure. I mean, I guess the proponent thinks that we need to protect whatever king salmon are being caught in the Wood River or need that extra protection. I have to talk to Frank. Ask Frank what he was thinking with this. Yeah, again, since we're not debating the merits of it, I won't say any more, but yeah.
What's the Wood River Special Harvest areas ruling with like drift to set gill net ratios? Do we have anything like that?
Right. So there's a couple different reasons we can open the Wood River Special Harvest Area. One is to protect, originally it was to protect Nushagak River coho salmon, but it was never used for that. Then it was converted to protect Nushagak River sockeye salmon, and it was used for that a lot. And for a while it was concurrent opening, so both gear types fished at the same time. And then in 2012 it switched to single gear types at a time, and the ratio is 3 drift openings for 1 set opening. But when it switched from that, there was also a provision that passed in 2009 that said if we just had way more fish in the Wood River than we needed, we could open the Wood River just as an extra place to fish. And under that rule, it was, when it first was created, it was both gear types fished up there at the same time. in 2012, when they made it so only one gear type could fish at a time, the rule was it would be considered, all the fish caught in the Wood River would be considered part of the general district, the Nushagak district allocation plan. So we're trying to manage the whole district so that 74% of the fish are caught by set net or drift net, 74 drift, 26 set. So it's all just added together, and then whatever gear type is behind on that whole allocation, that whole harvest percentage, they're the ones that gets the extra time in Wood River Special Harvest Area when we open it just to harvest the surplus fish. Clear as mud? Fritz?
Give us by some happy circumstance, the allocation is perfectly balanced, there's some, lift openings and second openings ultimately. I think maybe that's what we was getting at, the drifters were supposed to get 3 openings, so that was 1 opening. Does that matter? Is that still in regulation?
Like I said, so the 3 openings for drift, 1 opening per set is in regulation when we're only fishing in the Wood River and we have no fishing in the commercial district. That's where when we're protecting. Back then it was Nushagak River sockeye. Otherwise, right now it's if we're just trying to harvest surplus fish in the Wood River, then it's all based on what the allocation is, and all the fish caught in the Wood River are added into the allocation for the whole district, and whatever gear type is short. And always, even if it's 0.1%, somebody's short. So we make the decisions, and it can go back and forth. We've seen it go back and forth. So it'll be like 2 years ago, I think we started off drift. Drift got in there for a couple days, and then it would set. And it stayed set the rest of the season. But there's been other years where it's gone back and forth.
Does the harvest from the Wood River Special Harvest Area go into the overall allocation?
Under this, when we're harvesting surplus fish, yes, it's all added together. I like to say 1 set of books, only 1 tally. Otherwise it would be 3 drift to 1 set. Okay, next. Okay, this proposal, they're saying that when we're fishing in there like we are now, just trying to harvest surplus sockeye in the Wood River, it would require both set and drift gear type get some opportunity. So I think his proposal is you get 2 drift every 48 hours. Opposite gear types will be allowed to go up there. So every 48 hours you'd switch, regardless of what, and it wouldn't count towards the allocation in the district anymore. So that's what this proposal would do. Make you go back and forth. This proposal wants to, so right now in the Wood River Special Harvest Area, you're only allowed 25 fathoms of gear if you're a set netter. But they want to make it 37.5 fathoms because that's what it is in the Naknek River is, their gear restriction is 37.5 fathoms in the Naknek River. And so the idea was we make the Wood River Special Harvest Area more like the Naknek River, give us a little opportunity to harvest more fish because, as you said before, we're going way over the escapement goal anyway. So whatever we can do to catch a few more fish. So that's what this proposal wants to do, is just give them some extra gear in the Wood River and make it similar to the Naknek River. All right, so there's several proposals here coming up that are really part of the Nushagak King Salmon Stock of Concern Management Plan, and they do different things. And I want to say, I wrote a nice note in there, so I remember to say it. I can't see my notes. But anyway, once the plan is open, anything is possible. So we talked about subsistence earlier, and there's the only quote unquote subsistence proposal has to do with a kind of a cap on how many kings you're allowed to catch. But once the Nushagak Stock Concern Plan is open, anything can be proposed and substitute language can be created to do anything. So for example, there could be substitute language that comes in and says subsistence fishing will be restricted to 3 days a week, or mesh size for subsistence nets will be restricted to 5.5 inches or smaller. So that's where it really matters that if you care about this stuff, you got to pay attention and participate in the process, because you never know what's going to happen. When we were talking about the Wood River Special Harvest Area changing in 2012, I think the original proposal was to shut down the Wood River Special Harvest Area. And what came out of that proposal was making it so that only one gear type at a time could fish in the Wood River Special Harvest Area. So dramatic changes can happen at the board meeting, and they can happen quickly. So that's my little caveat. Fritz?
And excuse me, when you say it's open, that's when the board says, well, we're gonna take up proposal 61, move to adopt, and somebody seconds it, and all of a sudden, that means it's open on the table for discussion, correct?
I'm not talking about that. Once there's a proposal that deals with a specific regulation, that regulation is open. And so the conversation happens throughout the board meeting. You know, if you haven't been to a board meeting, so the first thing, they'll do all their introductions, they'll do their disclaimers, staff will give our staff reports, and then they'll go into the committee of the whole, and they'll go through and talk about each kind of proposal. And when they're having these conversations, it'll generate side conversations, and people will approach a board member and say, hey, we have an idea that we think will solve this problem. And they, you know, and usually it'll be a group of people, and usually, hopefully it'll be various stakeholders. They'll say, look, we think this is going to be a good solution. And they'll get a board member to kind of champion that substitute language. And this is all happening in little pockets here and there. And if you're not really aware of how it works, you might miss it. But that's where a lot of the substitute language comes from, is these little sidebar conversations. So, like I said, once this regulation, once it's a proposal, anything in this regulation is fair game, and they could add additional things to that regulation. Because they're concerned about Nushagak king salmon, and if they think subsistence needs to be restricted in some way, it might pop up. Anyway, this proposal in particular, though, is only asking that all commercial fishing in the Nushagak section be closed until June 28th at 9 a.m. unless we're projecting exceeding the 95,000 in-river king salmon escapement. And it would also restrict all commercial fishing to no more than 12 hours per day from June 28th through July 4th. So that's what this proposal is suggesting. But again, this is just like a rough idea thrown out there. Though I'm sure there'll be lots of sidebar conversations and seeing if they can, you know, maybe people will try and tweak this and make it July 4th, no fishing before July 4th, or maybe making it June 25th. You know, there's all kinds of people that are going to be pulling either way. And that's what really happens at the board. Questions? Yeah?
Just a comment. I think it's important to see who's proposing the various proposals. The Kenai River Sport Fishing Association is taking increasing interest in the Nushagak River, and as much as Kingston and Kenai is not what it used to be. And this one is proposed by the Sport Fishing restrict, commercial fishing until after the 4th of July. That's a big one.
They're doing this to every river.
All right. Next. Another proposal. This one would restrict commercial fishing in the Nushagak district with drift gill nets and the Nushagak section with set gill nets. So no fishing prior to June 28th at 9 a.m. unless king salmon escapement has exceeded 55,000. So pretty much similar to the previous proposal, except it doesn't have the only 12 hours of fishing between June 28th and July 4th. Next. This one, if the total, oh wait, this is a really long proposal. Wait, is this one of yours, Lee?
Yeah. That's,
I thought I hid that slide. Can you just?
I'll talk about this one.
Yeah. All right, so this proposal, this one would allow for the opening of the Wood River Special Harvest Area to harvest surplus Wood River sockeye salmon, while the broader Nishigack district would remain closed for salmon conservation. So right now, we can't open the Wood River Special Harvest Area until we hit that 1.1 million trigger and project 1.4 million. This is just saying that basically we could open the Wood River Special Harvest Area on June 20th and start fishing, knowing that at some point we can control escapement as it goes until such time as we open the commercial district, and then we close the Wood River and everybody else would go out to the district. And the idea kind of is that if we harvested some of the early escapement in the wood, we'd have it under control, and then we wouldn't have to fish in there as much later on, because we'll be fishing on those fish in the district. Next. This proposal wants to change the way the allocation is. So this so fish harvested in the Wood River Special Harvest Area would not be included in the Nishigack District allocation plan. We just had this conversation about right now everything is added to the one set of books for the whole district, and they're saying no, Wood River shouldn't be included in that. It should have its own 3-to-1 ratio of fishing in the Wood River drift to set, and then the district should be the district. So that's what this proposal is saying.
What do you think about that?
We're not getting know what I should. No. Talk to me later. Okay. So this proposal would create an optimal escapement goal, an OEG, for Nishigack River king salmon that would result in a spawning escapement range of 102,000 to 119,000 fish from a sonar count of 59,000 to 69,000. So right now, our goal on the Nishigack is for a 55,000 to 120,000 biological escapement. So that's a sonar count minus harvest upriver. So really, if we have a count of 55,000 at the sonar, it really is only about 52,000. So we'd have to have a count of close to 60,000 to get to the 55,000 lower end goal that we have right now. So all this proposal is really doing is saying, instead of trying to get up to 120,000 kings up the river, we only want to get to 69,000 kings up the river. And after we get 69,000 kings, we have to have directed king openings to control the king salmon escapement. So I'm not sure why. I think this is just, the guy didn't really understand what the rules are now, and is kind of shot himself in the foot, because I know this guy, he's a sport lodge guy, and I'm just really puzzled by this whole proposal. But anyway, I'm not getting into what I think about it. But that's what it would do. It would lower the king salmon escapement, and if we were to have a good king run, require us to have directed king openings. That's what it would do. Okay. So this one wants to define in regulation recovery goal for Nishigack River king salmon. There is one that was adopted in RC 51 or something last time around, but it would just set a specific criteria for when we no longer have a king salmon stock concern. Yeah, next. Okay. the Bristol Bay Reserve Association, okay. This one wants to extend the north line of the Ugashic district to 3 Mile state water boundary. So I think there's a map. So right now, this black line is the boundary for the Ugashic district, the outside boundary. And they want to make it this dotted line, which would go out 3 miles, which is the state water limit. So that's what that would do.
That was Bristol Bay Reserve Fisheries?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who. And it's just the northern boundary, not the whole boundary, right? So the inshore end, Cape Menshikoff was still there, but the offshore, the northern end would be further off. Okay. Continued on next slide. So this proposal, there's this group of 4 proposals, all talk about a general district. I don't know if any of you were around in 2004 when we had the general district, but there's a map on the next one. So the general district allows for, again, fishing out to the 3 mile limit. And I think most of the proposals in that group only want it to go to on the east side. They don't want it over here. They just want it on the east side of the bay. And there's various reasons and various stipulations about whether all the east side rivers have met the midpoint of the goal or if the transfer. So each individual proposal has its own thing, but they're all basically seeking to bring back the general district at the end of the season in some way.
When was the last time there was a general district?
There was only ever one general district. I think it was only 2004. And that was because we had this massive forecast back then, massive. And the processors, that was back in the day when processors were over capacity, had to shut down because they didn't have enough capacity to process all the fish being caught. And so the idea was if they spread out the fishing earlier, expanded the shoulder season on the front end, they wouldn't get so plugged up all at once in the middle of the fishery. There were some problems with that. Various people liked it or didn't like it. And so it went away after that season, as far as I remember. But some people want it back. Some of the comments are like, go out to the 3 miles so you don't have to worry about illegal fishing. If you're in the big box and there's all this illegal fishing, if it was just open all the way out to the 3 mile line, there wouldn't be any illegal fishing. So that's kind of what I got out of some of the proposals. All right, permit stacking. Go ahead, next slide. So all 3 of these proposals, and the next one we're going to talk about 77, they want to allow for one person to own both drift permits and fish them as a dual operation. Right now, only one person can own and fish one permit. So allowing one person to own both permits would make it easier for that one person. But anyway, that's what these 3 are about. Next. And this one, the guy wants to make it so you could own and fish both permits, and then that would become an e-permit, and it would be forever bound as an e-permit. And it would be up to 300 e-permits could be created that way. So that's what this proposal would do. Like I said, all 4 of them are basically kind of permit stacking, just with different variations. Okay. This one here, repeal the maximum offshore operation distance for set gill nets in the Ugashic River. This would only apply to the waters of statistical area 325 321-50. So in the river, I guess in the mouth of the Gash River, there's they still have the same limitations. I don't know, 800 feet from the 18-foot high tide mark, and they want to be able to fish out further. I don't know if it's because of erosion or sedimentation or what's going on there, but they want more area to fish. I think in the past there was some Coast Guard channel issues related to them, how far out they were fishing. They're blocking the channel and interfering with boat traffic or something, but I'm not sure. Okay, this one is to allow joint venture fishing. It would allow two CFEC set gill net permit holders to operate together as a joint venture in the Bristol Bay area. But they have to get a joint venture permit issued by the department. This is legal in Kodiak. I reached out to a guy in Kodiak that I know, and I think he's off on vacation. He didn't respond. I know we've talked about this a little bit at the Nishigak AC meeting, I think, and it's unclear. The goal is to make it so it's easier for these family operations that set gill net, especially at ECUP, for example, but not just limited to ECUP, to transport their fish where it needs to go to get processed. And the idea with the joint venture is if two people sign up together, then one person can go deliver the fish and sign for it. Now, the legality of all that is in question. Like I said, it's in regulation in Kodiak. How it's written and how it all works, I'm not sure of, and I can't speak to. I'm sure there'll be a lot of conversation about it at the board meeting, because in theory, every permit holder needs to be present when their fish are delivered and sign that fish ticket. There's some ways around it. You can get a transporter permit. This is trying to be another option. But it is, I was thinking when I heard about it in Kodiak, I was like, I know there's some set nets at the south end of Kodiak that used to have tender service and now they don't. And so they have to run around to Larson Bay or someplace to deliver all their fish. And to make two people make that trip when one person could do it, obviously is a big difference. So and the same thing at ECUC, having to drive 20 miles down the beach to deliver your fish and take two people because you pick two nets instead of one person. I understand what's going on there, but I don't know what the solution is. But that's what they're going to hopefully work out at the board meeting. Oh, that was just, this is what's in language in Kodiak. And both parties of the joint venture are legally responsible for the operation of all gear of the joint venture. And I think because they're a joint venture, it allows, one person to sign the fish tickets for both people at the time. But again, I'm not clear on the legalities of it all, and I hesitate to say more than that. Okay, create a new gear type in Bristol Bay called stationary non-entanglement nets, which have a mesh size of between 2.5 inches and 3.5 inches. They can be fished within 1,000 feet from shore and 300 feet from any other gear. And this would sunset end of 2028 season. A beach thing is basically what they're talking about. And the same guy was the one that did the proposal on the quality of fish. So I think he's looking for some kind of experimental fishery to try and catch better quality fish, or maybe in the case of the Nishigak district, allow release of king salmon, for example. But I don't know. Anyway, so that's what that proposal is. So primary research objectives: evaluate the ability of an alternate harvest method to exclude harvest Nishigak salmon, Nishigak kings. Alternative harvest methods in Bristol Bay, premium market. So that's what he's thinking. All right. These proposals are all vessel specifications and operations. Next slide. So basically, all these proposals want to define what the vessel length is, what that means, what extra stuff can be on or sticking out from the boat, and how you measure the overall length. So when we had our meeting in Togiak, I think they were ready to just oppose all of these. And I get that, but my advice would be pick one that you like the most and make comments on that one and say why you support it. Because what's clearly needed is better definitions than what we have right now. And even if you just want it to be 32 feet, period, that's it. You know, you can say that in there if you're going to comment on one, but just to oppose them all without adding something new that will help with the definition that we have right now is what's really needed. That makes sense. Fritz.
Jim, excuse me, I think there's a question online in the chat there for you.
Oh, well, my chat guy reading his own stuff.
Yeah, hey Tim, it's Lilani. I think Carell had a question for you in the chat.
Hi, Leilani. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah. I don't know if you want to unmute him or if he's able to.
Krill.
You're asking about trawl fleet fishing. The Board of Fish has nothing to do with that. They're having the meeting right now at the council meeting in Anchorage, I think. And that's where questions about the trawl fishery and regulations about the trawl fishery go. I can do nothing about the trawl fishery.
Is there any biology that you're privy to that might indicate that during our king seasons and when our kings are coming up, the trawl fishery is in fact hammering on them?
I don't even know what the seasons are for the trawl fleet, but based on the conversations I've had, if you take the Nushagak, Kuskokwim, and the Yukon River, there's like 500,000 king salmon missing based on what our average runs used to be and what they are now. And the trawl fleet's not coming anywhere near that. They're like, I think their hard cap is 66,000. And I think they've been in the 20s or 30s. So that's not the hole. That may be a little hole in the bucket, but that is not the big hole in the bucket that's making up, because like I said, 500,000 plus kings are missing from these three rivers, just in Nushagak, Kuskokwim, and Yukon. So there's some other problem out there, and I don't know what it is.
And Kirill and anyone else who's interested in chatting, please reach out to me more about this. If you want to talk more about this, I think we should stick to the proposals for now, if possible. Just as we're at 1:15 now.
Oh,
So,
right. We're getting there. We're 91. I think I got a couple more to go here. Okay, so yeah. So this one would close the commercial salmon fishing season in Naknek-Kvichak district on July 25th, period. After July 25th, no more fishing, commercial fishing in Naknek-Kvichak district. So that's what this proposal does. This one would change the current fishing schedule in Kalukuk Bay from, right now it's 9 a.m. Monday to 9 p.m. Wednesday, and they would like it to be 9 a.m. Monday to 9 a.m. Friday. That's, so it gets a little different than the rest of the bays in Bristol Bay in that they have a set schedule. We can change that schedule by emergency order, but if we don't change it, it is what it is, versus all the other bays, we open and close the fishery on a tide by tide basis. So that's what they're doing here. Next. Also in Togiak, for the Togiak River section, a long time ago, the people of Togiak put in this regulation that the department could only extend commercial fishing by a maximum of 48 hours in the Togiak River section. And now they're thinking that they want to get rid of that restriction so that in theory we could extend it so it's basically continuous fishing. Because right now in Togiak, basically after July 15th, they go back to the Monday 9 a.m. to Friday 9 a.m. fishing schedule in Togiak Bay. And so if you can do a 48-hour extension, it only gets you Sunday morning at 9 a.m. So they want it to be more around the clock. Next. Okay. So this proposal, again, we talked about registration earlier. This proposal would make it so that if you registered fish and you want to go fish early season in Igigik, and that goes till June 16th or whatever it is over there. And then you did your shakedown, everything's working right. And now you're not sure where you want to fish. Instead of having to pick a district and transfer to that district, you can transfer to, I call it neutral or undropped. So it would allow you to sit out your 48-hour wait time right now. And then when you decide where you want to fish, then you can drop your card again. You wouldn't drop your card again, you'd register again for whatever district you wanted to go to after you kind of saw what was going on.
Cool. I like
That
that.
makes sense.
So, and I think you'd only be allowed to do that prior to June 25th. But there's like a lot of the east side, we're generally closed over here. The east side has their weekly schedules, Monday 9 a.m. to Friday 9 a.m. And then they go, I think Ugashi goes until the 20th or something. And so then it's a Friday, and if you quit at 9 a.m. Friday and you go to neutral, then by 9 a.m. Sunday, you can choose which district you want to go to without and you've already waited your 48 hours. So that's the point of this one. And that should be it.
Yep.
Okay. Any more follow-up questions? I'll turn it over to Lee.
Any online?
PowerPoint. Didn't have the time.
All right.
Put my face up there if people want to see that.
Yeah, I will spotlight you, but I will hide you back behind you.
Distracting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. My name is Lee Borden. I'm the Bristol Bay area manager for Fish and Game for Division of Sport Fish. I'll run you through the sport fish proposals. Just like Tim, I'll just kind of keep it brief, give you the, what this is going to do, and then we'll just kind of roll through them. If you have any questions on what the proposals will do, I'll help clarify that for you. Mainly, I'm just hoping that people get an idea of what's out there so that they can participate in an AC meeting or go to the board meeting or provide comments if they'd like. So quick overview, and same with Tim is, after this meeting, if you guys want to debate the merits or get really into it, either give Tim and I a call at the office and or attend the AC meeting. So, all right, we ready to roll?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so proposal 63. So this proposal would prohibit the retention of king salmon 28 inches or greater in length until 70,000 king salmon are counted at the sonar. And it would establish sport fishing closures that would be based on the tides. It would also require that annual harvest of king salmon be submitted and reported to the department. So in this scenario, we would start under catch and release, and then we would have to emergency order to open the fishery to retention once the 70,000 fish had been hit in river. That's proposal 63. Proposal 67 is also a Nishigat King Salmon sport fishing proposal, or excuse me, 66. So proposal 66, also for Nishigat King Salmon, would prohibit the use of bait and barbed hooks by sport anglers in the Nushagak River drainage and define only 4 specific legal types of terminal tackle for king salmon in the Nushagak. So the 4 types of gear that would be allowed would be 1 plug with a single barbless hook, 1 spoon with a single barbless hook, 1 spinner with a single barbless hook, or one artificial fly with a single barbless hook. Those are the only 4 allowable gear types from this proposal. So the board would have to go in and do some definitions and probably define what constitutes a spoon, things like that. So this one is very specific to terminal tackle. That's proposal 66. Proposal 67, also a Nushagak king salmon proposal for sport fishing. This proposal would prohibit sport retention of king salmon and prohibit the use of bait on the Nushagak River, as well as close the Stuyahawk and Mulchatna rivers to fishing for king salmon until the lower end of the escapement goal has been met. So essentially the season would start out with no retention of king salmon in the Nushagak drainage, no use of bait in the Nushagak drainage, and then the Stuyahawk and Mulchatna would be closed until we hit 55 at the sonar. So an emergency order would have to be issued by the department once the 55,000 was reached. They would open those areas, allow bait to be used, and allow retention to occur. So those are our Nushagak king salmon sport fishing proposals. The next set of proposals are for the Naknek River. So proposal 96. This proposal would prohibit the use of bait and multiple hooks in the Naknek River drainage year-round. Currently, bait and multiple hooks are prohibited from March 1st to November 14th. So during the peak season of sport fishing, bait and multiple hooks are already prohibited. So this would just extend that to year-round. So over the winter. That's proposal 96. Next one here. And then proposal 97, also for the Naknek River drainage. This proposal would prohibit barbed hooks, would prohibit the use of bait, and prohibit the use of multiple hooks when sport fishing for rainbow trout or Arctic char in the Naknek River drainage. This proposal would also prohibit removing any fish from the water prior to release in the Naknek River drainage, any fish of any species. So we already have that here in the Nushagak. You can't, remove a king salmon from the water unless you plan to retain it. This would do that on the Naknek River drainage for all species. That is proposal 97, the Naknek. Proposal 98, also for the Naknek River. This is for king salmon. This proposal would lower the sport fish annual limit for king salmon over 28 inches in length from 3 fish to 1 fish in the Naknek River. So this would make it so you're only allowed 1 fish over 28 inches in length for the whole season. Currently, it is 3 fish over 28 inches in length for the whole season for Naknek River. So this would further reduce that down to 1. So next proposal is also for the Naknek River. I'm grouping these together. This is proposal 99 and proposal 100. Both of these proposals would move the regulatory marker referred to in regulation as, quote, ADF&G marker located half a mile above Rapids Camp, end quote, on the Naknek River, and it would relocate that marker from river mile 24.25, river mile 23. So this would result in a 1.25 mile downstream portion to be closed year-round to fishing for king salmon, and it would also extend some of those regulatory tackle requirements and bag limits that apply to the upper Naknek River section. It would just make that upper Naknek River section bigger by moving the lower boundary downstream 1.25 miles. So it would move that marker from Rapids Camp down to a spot called Rainbow Bend, if you're familiar with Naknek River. And that would be for both proposals 99 and 100. One of the proposals was looking to preserve king salmon. The other was looking to protect rainbow trout. They would both essentially do the exact same things. I'm just breezing through these, so definitely interject if you got questions.
Nothing online.
Nothing
You're good.
Okay, just making sure. So proposal 101. So we're moving away from the Naknek now. This is a proposal for the Egegik and Ugashik drainages. So proposal 101 would prohibit the use of bait and multiple hooks in the Egegik and Ugashik river drainages. So basically it would be unbaited single hook for both drainages year-round, all species. The proposer there, I believe, is trying to protect coho salmon, rainbow trout. So that's the aim there. Proposal 102. So we're moving from east side all the way over the west side now. Proposal 102 is for the Togiak River drainage. So this proposal would change the dates that bait is allowed in the Togiak River drainage from July 15th through April 30th to July 11th through April 30th. This proposal would also move the boundary for the area that's closed year-round to king salmon sport fishing from all waters above the confluence of the Togiak and the Gishik to all waters above the confluence of the Togiak River and the Pungo River, so the Pungo Kipuk. So the Pungo is the southern border of the Togiak National Wildlife Refuge. Right now, the line that's closed to king salmon is just about 5 miles below that at the Gishik confluence. So this proposal would essentially allow bait to be used 5 days sooner than it currently is and move that boundary point from the Gishik up to the Pungo. The Pungo is, like I said, currently the boundary for the Togiak National Wildlife Refuge. So it would kind of standardize that boundary line there. And there's essentially the 5 days sooner for bait use could hypothetically overlap with the tail end of the king salmon run. But currently there's no retention of king salmon over 20 inches in the Togiak. So potentially no more back there. So proposal 103 would apply to all Bristol Bay fresh waters. So proposal 103. This proposal would prohibit placing in the water any substance for attracting fish by scent, also known as chumming, by guides and guided anglers within all Bristol Bay freshwaters. So this proposal would make it so that no guides or guided anglers would be allowed to chum in any way, shape, or form in any waters of Bristol Bay. Currently, the current regulation is that guides and guided anglers may not chum in waters that are closed to the use of bait. So any waters that are no bait, hypothetically for us right here in this room, the Agulawak, no bait on the Agulawak, you wouldn't be allowed to chum on the Agulawak right now. But that same operator could move down into the lake, go down in Wood River, go into another drainage, and could chum because those areas are open to the use of bait. So essentially this would make it so that no guides or guided anglers could chum anywhere in Bristol Bay, any freshwaters. So that's that one. Proposal 104. So this proposal is for a handful of small rainbow trout streams over the Dillingham and Naknek area. So this proposal would prohibit the use of barbed hooks in Moraine Creek, Kulik River, American Creek, and Brooks River from June 8th to October 31. So June 8th to October 31 is typically the peak season for sport fishing in these areas, and this would make those drainages barbless hook only. Currently, there are no barbless hook regulations in the state of Alaska. So we don't have any barbless hook regulations in the state. If these went through, they would be the first ones introduced in the state of Alaska. So, and again, this would be barbless hooks for Moraine, Kulik, American, and Brooks. And I think the proposer there is looking to help with handling time for rainbow trout is essentially what they're getting at there. And then the last two proposals I've got for you for sport fish. It's proposal 105 and proposal 185. They're asking to do pretty much the same thing. One of them is specific to the Naknek River. The other one is general to Bristol Bay wide. So I'll read the lead-in language for proposal 105, but just know that proposal 185 is just specific to Naknek. So proposal 105 would adopt a king salmon management plan for streams located in Bristol Bay that do not currently have management plans in place and have active sport, subsistence, or personal use fisheries associated with them. The proposer specifically names Kwijak, Alagnak, Naknek, Agushik, Ugashik, Sandy, and Meshik river drainages. So that's the way that the proposal is written. It wouldn't necessarily be specific to just those named drainages. Those are just ones that they put in there for examples. In my mind, it would also likely include Togiak, Klukuk, Gleefuk, you name it. If it's got a fishery, it would fall under this. There's many ways the board could go about this. The board could decide to, like Tim said, once you get something on the table, it can morph into something different. The board could decide to do specific management plans for specific drainages. They could say, hey, let's draw one up for Naknek, let's draw one up for Togiak, and we're good. Or they could say, here's a Bristol Bay king salmon management plan, which would incorporate all fresh waters. So there's multiple ways they could go about this. The plan could hypothetically include statistical analysis that would need to be performed in order to form SEGs and escapement goal ranges that could then be put into the plans that would be used for management purposes. Or the board could just decide to make a very general management plan that would simply include terminal tackle regulations, bag limits, time and area, stuff like that, and completely leave out any kind of statistical analysis or escapement goals. So the board could go at this from any different angle. This is one of those ones that's very general and has a high potential for mutating and morphing once it ends up on the table at the Board of Fish. So this would be one to pay attention to. So that's 105, and like I said, proposal 185 is essentially identical to this, but it's only calling for a management plan for the Naknek River specifically for king salmon. So those are the sport fish proposals. Sorry if I went a little fast on those, but wanted to get through and give us a little bit of time to chat. If anybody heard any of these proposals and anything piqued your interest, you're like, oh man, barbless hooks, I don't like the idea of that. Or, hey, I like to use bait on the Naknek in the wintertime. Anything that popped into your mind as we're going through these, now's the time to get involved. If you're here in Dillingham and you like to fish on the Naknek, or you spend time over in Ugashik or any of these other places, I would encourage you to call in and participate in that area's AC meeting. So if one of these proposals piqued your interest for Naknek, for instance, call into the Naknek AC meeting, talk to the folks over there, talk to Natalie, talk to me, and we'll make sure that your voice is heard. As a member of the public, you can submit comment to the Board of Fish. You can submit comments to the AC, through the AC. So get involved. That's my elevator pitch there for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Early on, when Tim was introducing the conference proposals, one of the things that was mentioned was that once any one of these proposals is opened up for discussion, once it's on the table, that virtually anything can happen. One of the things I'm still curious about is, particularly on the news, is king salmon monitoring, both the counting at the sonar and also sport fishing, effort. And as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that there is any real-time data that comes to the department regarding king salmon effort. How many fish got hooked, how many fish got landed, hooked and released, or just hooked and got off and stuff like that. And Am I correct in that?
There actually is now, yes.
Can you rephrase the question?
Yeah, and so I'll repeat the question for those online. He's asking if there's any real-time information that comes into the department from the sport fishery happening on the river. Did I summarize that?
Exactly.
Yep. There actually is now, yeah, and so
Is it a voluntary thing? Or?
No. So we actually run a creel project on the river now. We did one in, I believe, 2020 or 2021, and that was just a one-off. We just wanted to get a handle on the level of effort. Then after the stock of concern management plan was put into place, and the stock of concern plan was presented to the board in 2022, king salmon were designated as stock of concerns. BBDC and BBSRI got involved, and they are helping the department through some funding to operate an annual yearly creel on the Nushagak River to get real-time in-season data. We were the first project in the state to actually get Starlink. I had to jump through a ton of hoops for that so that I could specifically get real-time data. So every day, 6 days a week, my crew's out there and they run from Black Point all the way up to the lower Ekwok land boundary above the East and West Channel. And they count both East Channel, West Channel, and the main river from Portage all the way down to Black Point. So we're counting 95% of the effort for Kings on the River is in that section. And so they count it 6 days a week, count every single angler on the river, and then they interview people at camps along the river. They kind of rove around. They try and get as many of the fly-ins as they can. There's quite a few fly-ins, so they'll survey them. And it's not a voluntary survey. If my crew pulls up and they want to interview you, you must submit to that interview or the troopers will be called. And so the troopers have our back. Joe Whitcock's on board. He knows what we're doing up there. And I've told him if we pull up to a camp and they refuse our interviews, you will be called. And he's like, absolutely. And I'll fly up there the very next morning and I'll have a talk with them. So enforcement is on board to enforce this. As employees of the department, we have the right, it's on everyone's fishing licenses. We have the right to ask to look at their catch, to look at their tackle, and to ask them questions and interview them for surveys. So yeah, it is not voluntary. They will get in trouble if they do not participate. So we go up, we interview them, we ask them how many hours they were fishing each day. We ask each angler how many hours, how many fish they caught and released, how many fish they caught and kept. And then of the fish they caught and kept, we take scale samples so that we can age them, and we take length and sex. So we have a good idea of what's being kept, how many are being kept. And as that data is coming in, we can extrapolate it out to the whole river because we're interviewing 20 or 30 people every single day from all the different lodges, and we bounce around day to day. And so we'll take that data, we'll stick it together with the amount of effort that's on the river. We can extrapolate out with some confidence intervals, but we can extrapolate out how many fish we think are being caught and how many fish are being caught and released, how many fish are being kept any given day. Right now we just finished our 3rd year of it. As this continues and we get more years of data, we can actually start to stack it with Tim's data from the sonar and start to try and get an idea of how it relates to the sonar count, and it'll improve our management in season. So we actually do have in-season data now.
Oh, great. That's very encouraging.
Yep. Wasn't specific proposals, but people should know that, so.
Any other questions?
Cool. Anybody else in here?
You're saying that there are no first barb regulations in the state, but wasn't one of the proposals talking about, was it hook with one barb? Is that what you're saying versus hook with no barb?
So there's multiple hook regulations and then there's barbed hook regulations. And multiple hooks, there's depends on how you word it. So multiple hook could either be referring to a treble hook, or it could be referring to 2 hooks on one plug. Like a quick fish, for instance, would have 2 hooks on it, one in the front, one in the back. So you can talk about a single hook, or you can talk about one single hook. It's very nuanced. So if you say one single hook, then you have one single hook that's just a single.
But it's still barbed.
It's still barbed.
Yeah.
Or you can talk about single hook, which means you can use a treble. That's one treble hook, right? Yeah, so you have to really pay attention to the wording on here. And so they're trying to get rid of multiple hooks, which they don't word it specifically. So the way I'm approaching those proposals is they're trying to get rid of both treble hooks and multiple single hooks. So they want to go to one single hook. That's the way I've read those proposals.
So people will push in their barb just for personal preference. That's not like.
Correct. Yeah, you can crimp your barbs right now all you want. So some
But it's
people,
not like required or anything.
no.
Like a barbless hook is a separate hook that doesn't even have.
A barbless hook is a whole separate can of worms. Yeah. And crimping barbs is, we're going to stray a little bit into merits here, but at the end, crimping barbs is very subjective. The way you crimp a barb is different than the way I'll crimp a barb, which is different than the way Tim will crimp a barb. And so if you have an enforcement agent come around and they look at, we each have an identical hook and we've each crimped it. Maybe I pushed mine a little farther down than you did, or maybe yours broke off when you crimped it. And now whose hook is a legal hook at this point? There's not that many tackle companies out there that make barbless hooks. Hard to come by, super expensive, and biologically speaking, there's no real benefit to a barbless hook in Alaska. Barbless hooks don't really affect mortality rate of fish. They affect handling time. And in Alaska, that's not really a big deal because the detrimental effects of extended handling time are due to temperature, generally speaking. So if you're in high desert Utah fishing for little, trout in some little creek, and it's 90 degrees out and the water temp is 74, holding that fish out for an extra couple seconds is going to make a big deal. But here, if you're, over in Brooks River and it's, drizzling 52 degrees and the water's 48, I mean, it's not really you can hold that fish out of the water for quite a bit longer without detrimental effects. So for the state of Alaska, there's no real biological benefit. It just reduces handling time.
So Catherine, I see your hand is raised, but real quick, I see a question from Eric about the sport info, the real-time sport info, that he asked if that info was public.
Yeah, so in season, we're using it for management, and then at the end of every season, we publish a report. So if you look on the Fish and Game website and go under into our report section, and you search New Shagat Kings, or you search my name as an author of the report, it'll pop up and it'll show you the 23, 24, and 25. 25 is in the process of publishing now. So at the end of every season, Greta and I get together and we put together a report. We publish all our findings from that season. So that data is available for the public. Yep.
Great. And Catherine, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'm trying. Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, good. I had a question on the king. I know Tim answered the question about trawl catch on kings. And I understand that the Board of Fish this is Bristol Bay Board of Fish, they can only act on Bristol Bay proposals, but I'm just wondering if there is anything that the public can do in our comments or the department can do to help put the king issue in context for the board. Just since there's proposals facing shutdowns for every user group, and I'm just wondering, is there a way we can put the full problem in context for the board so that as they're making decisions, making trade-offs for user groups, they're able to do it in the full context? Or, I mean, I think because we don't know the full, all the impacts, the full suite of the problem, like, is there anything the public or department can do to kind of help highlight that to the board? I know last time around, I was asking the board if they could just put out a declaration that the problem is bigger than anything any user group can solve and that we need more research funding. So yeah, I'm just wondering, can we or the department do anything to help put that in context?
Yeah, Catherine, this is Natalie Romo, the Southwest Regional Coordinator. Yeah, so you can attend those board meetings and participate in public testimony and committee of the whole. You can submit written comments to the board. You can submit RCs, which is another form of written comment that you can submit while the board meeting is in progress. The Board of Fish and the Board of Game do not have authority to direct the state of Alaska to spend money, so it's not like the board can tell them to set aside some budgeting to do surveys or create a management plan, but you can absolutely speak up at board meetings, and that's the commissioner attends these meetings. That is a really good way to be heard and give everybody a better idea of what's actually happening.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that a little bit. From my experience at board meetings, and I'm sure you already know this, you're preaching to the choir, but if you show up in person at the meeting and you give public testimony at the mic to the board, they generally take that pretty seriously. You've gone out of your way to attend, to come to Anchorage, to be at this meeting, and the board, generally speaking, will listen to the folks that are at the meeting speaking to the board during public comment. So everything that you just said, everything that you want to get across to the board, I would go to the meeting and I would say it during public comment, and they will take that seriously.
Maybe this is a question for you, but first of all, is there another advisory council, Dillingham or Nishiak Advisory Council meeting happening before the board?
It's the 13th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Greg is asking if there's another New Shigak Advisory Committee meeting, and there will be one on the 13th, December 13th, Saturday.
Okay. And then,
And Chug Yung Treble.
At the tribal.
I haven't noticed that meeting, so it's not out publicly yet, but yeah, it'll be at the hearing.
Okay, yep. At
And
the
then
tribal council building.
has,
Right.
at Board of Fish, do they do, video conferencing? I haven't been to one for a while, but I know when I first tried, they didn't have any way to participate unless you were there in person. Is there now? Do I have to participate?
So, they don't allow public testimony, they don't allow the public to testify via Zoom, but in certain situations, they'll allow advisory committees to, participate via Zoom. They don't like to do it just because it tends to be kind of problematic and cause issues for the tech team that's, putting that meeting online. But in the event that an AC member was booked to travel into a meeting, we had this actually happen at the Pacific Cod meeting. The Kodiak AC member who was going to represent their AC, she was booked, her flight got canceled, and so it was like last minute, she was really bummed she couldn't come. And so in that instance, they did let her give AC testimony online just because the effort had already been made, and it wasn't like she was like, well, I just don't really want to leave home today, so I'm going to do it online. But for the general public, it's not.
Yeah, as a member of the public, I would encourage them to figure out a way to allow people to participate that can't afford a ticket or can't afford the time off work or want to participate. I mean, yeah, I know this. It's very technical. I know
Yeah,
it's very hard,
that's kind of what it comes down to.
you can always submit written testimony. Yeah, and that's probably.
And on that note, can you say the date again for written comments are due?
Yeah, so public comments are due the 29th of December. Those will be published and be in the board members' binder so they can look over those. If there's like a proposal that they're discussing, you can also, if you're listening in, you can submit an RC, and that's another way to like submit a comment. And they're not going to see your face or hear your voice, but they'll still get the information, and you can submit that RC during deliberations even. So, and they're distributed on breaks at lunch. We're not going to give it to them as soon as we receive it, so we have to make sure that it's posted to the web and available to the public all at the same time. But that's a good way to get information for them during the meeting.
Can you say that in a second?
Okay.
For the written comments, is that online that they would fill out that form, or?
Yeah, so it's online. You can submit a Word document, PDF. There's if you go to the meeting information, Board of Fish, there's select the meeting that you want to submit a public comment to, and there's a big blue button that says submit a public comment. And that'll take you to a link. You fill it all out, and then submit that. And I believe it has to be under 10 pages. And then once deliberations are happening and we move to RCs, it has to be under 5 pages.
I have more logistics questions. All right. So just specifically, when and where is the Board of Fish?
Board of Fish meetings happen, kind of depends on the meeting. The Bristol Bay Finfish meeting will be taking place at the Egan Center in Anchorage on January 13th through the 18th.
And how do people find out about local AC meetings? You recommended calling in. I think that's great. How do people?
Also posted online, advisory committee website. There's all the schedules for all the meetings. There's a little kind of block in there that shows the upcoming meetings for any meeting that's happening, including board meetings, which is super helpful if you would just want to kind of peruse and be like, oh, Gash AC is having a meeting, or the Nishigak AC is having a meeting, or any AC within the state, as well as board meetings are posted there.
Right.
You have a listener, email list for these and up too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and any meeting,
Oh,
any meeting announcement I send out to that distribution list.
Should get on that list.
What's that?
I should get on that list.
Are you not?
I guess not.
Oh,
The actual meeting in Anchorage will be a live broadcast though.
yes, it will.
And she referenced earlier the presentation by Art Nelson. But he's done it a couple times for us, and it's recorded. It's on YouTube, Alaska Sea Grant's YouTube page. It's him breaking down the process, how to submit comments, how to present, all the logistics of it. And it's also on the Bristol Bay campus's website and recorded and available if people want to see just the presentation, like his physical presentation, or the recording. Both are available. Any other questions, in person or online? Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate everyone coming. Thank you all.